everything, and even things that normally the conscious mind knows how to control and normally controls. Eventually, the unconscious mind will overtake and take over that function. Going to work, driving to work, you get in the car, you turn the key on, and the next thing you know, you're at work. You don't even remember whether you ran through the red lights or, whether you ran over a little old lady trying to cross the street with her grandchild in a buggy with groceries on her back, still, walking with a cane, because sometimes once you get so old, you get sometimes that calcium deficiency and your bones get brittle and you bend over and things like this, and white hair also, and a long nose with a wart hanging out, and a wicked kind of smile that says, "I know you, little pretty." So I mean, obviously you didn't want to run over her, and you would have remembered if you did, but you're at work now and you don't even remember whether you ran over this lady or not. That's because the unconscious mind has taken over the job, the task, the responsibility of getting you from point A to point B. And that's the key, is that when you can teach the unconscious mind what the point A is and what the point B is, then if you will do it consciously, sooner or later the unconscious mind will say, "Look, let me show you how to do this. Let me do this." Because it likes to take over functions. The number one thing that the unconscious mind does not...
Unconscious mind is the God part of mind.
Well, I mean, not the whole thing. I mean, it's... if you look at the solar system, it has a sun that's in the center, but then it has all these different planets that are operating around in concentric elliptical orbits around that central point. And your consciousness is set up in a similar fashion. It has layers that as you go closer and closer
that needs to be reprogrammed.
Well, I mean, you would start from the surface level. You start from the outermost and you move toward the innermost. And then as you go in, you justify each one. You start on the Pluto, and then go in through Neptune, Uranus, Saturn. And see, the ancients used to always use these names as symbolic for different functions within the mind or within the invisible world. Even though you can see some of them some of the time, they poke their little head up like a whale out in the ocean. That sometimes they'll jump out of the water and splash back in. Dolphins do the same thing. Based upon where you are, you may say, "There be dolphins, there be whales." But the unconscious process that's just poking its head out of the water when it goes back in doesn't mean it's gone. It just means you don't see it any longer. And so that's you just have to take it for granted that it is operating, and that it is operating at the different levels. That's why they use the symbols, so that they use the names of the planets or the deities, the gods, if you will, so that you can system-wise and step-by-step handle each one, going inward toward the central core, the central core of your being, the central conscious core that has all of your, you can call them guide stones or tablets. Some people use decrees. Some people use laws, statutes, commandments, but basically it is a system set. It is an operating system that has machine level commands. It has basic structural commands that organize the identity and ideology of that system. That's what you want to get. You want to finally get to that area where you can begin to edit, maybe cut and paste, depending upon what kind of editing you do. Check the spelling. Make sure that these are all in order for what you consciously want to manifest the reality of your existence on a day-to-day basis. And in order to do that, you have to do it consciously,
Right.
long enough, or at an intentional level, that the unconscious can finally get a hold of the idea and say, oh, so that's what you want, although it may conflict with things that are there in the subconscious mind. If it does, you have a problem. You have to begin to address it at a deeper level, which means you have to be less conscious when you address it. In other words, you have to be less awake or less alert as you begin to handle the repetition or the establishment of the new paradigm or new program, if you will. It's not really a living terminology, but habit or habituation, life pattern. Those are the kinds of things that the unconscious will grab a hold to them. So at a very alert level, your brain waves are going to be maybe 11, 12 hertz or higher. The Africans, and all indigenous people all over the world are masters at this, because when they bring the drum with specific rhythms, and the rhythms are there in order to entrain and bring the brain consciousness and alertness from one level to the next level, to go from the outer, going deeper and deeper inward toward the central core of the existence. And that's why when they do the drum ritual, or when they do the drum program, they have the different archetypes which represent unconscious forces, unconscious intentionality. Okay, Carl Jung calls them archetypes, and they perform certain symbolic actions that, as the drums drop, as the brain waves drop, as the consciousness alters from the outer going toward the inner focus, inner attention focus, you bring the attention with the intention, and you have the archetype to move on your behalf. You identify with